So hello and welcome to our introduction to relationships. So we're going to cover, really we'll get into the fact that everything really is relational. We could spend days and days talking about this, but we won't. And we're going to focus on this dynamic of karmic relationships, soul connections, where there may be some overlap or some sharing. And hopefully this will help bring some clarity to the dynamics that you've got, not only with the people in your life, but this could also include things like your relationship with your body, with food, with addiction, your relationship with money, your relationship with nature, with your home, possessions, again, anything that's in your life that maybe feels sticky or off or that you're unsure of. Hopefully the things we talk through are going to help bring some clarity to that. Again, feel free to ask questions in the chat at any point. I'm happy to hear from you. And again, if there's anything that you want to make sure we cover tonight, again, feel free to type away in the chat and we'll make sure that we get to it. All right, so to start, let's just take in a couple nice deep breaths and just take a moment to really be present in your body. And just take some nice deep breaths. Just really empty and fill your lungs. And as you're really present in your body, just feel your nervous system calming down. Erasing repetitive thoughts can just kind of slow or soften. You can notice your muscles relaxing, your joints softening. Anywhere that you tend to hold tension in your body, you just breathe in and out of those areas. Just let all that fixed energy or anything that feels hard or stressful, just feel that starting to soften. If you want to take a moment to just connect with your entire energy field, your aura. If you're someone who connects with guides or angels or ancestors, they're welcome to be present with us. And just allow your energy to expand out as far as you want to allow it. It can expand through the world or out into the universe. And that just notice that the more you expand, the more spaciousness there is within you. The easier it is for things to shift. The easier it is for clarity and understanding to come in. And if there's anything that you know you want to surrender or finish with tonight, you can set that intention yourself. I'm just taking a couple more nice deep breaths. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Yeah, again, so welcome. I'm really excited about tonight. We're going to have a good call. So if you would like to share where you're joining from, if you want to share, again, any questions or anything that are already coming up for you, please feel free to type away in the chat. It's very cool to hear where we're all from. A few continents at least represented. So what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to quickly show you the current chart of the moment. So I've just run this just a moment ago. Let me find it. Yeah. Right. So this is the current chart. And I just want to point out, because we're in Libra season, this is why we're talking about relationships in this call. So any of these monthly calls I do have to do either with the astrology or current themes that are coming up for our clients and students. And we are over here in Libra season, and we know that the symbol for Libra is the scales. So it's really looking at what we're weighing up, ways we're trying to compensate, maybe ways we are correcting or overcorrecting. And Libra is all about relationships. It's our relationship with something other. And with the current transits, you see we've got the sun here with Mercury, which means, the sun is all about who we are at our deepest levels. So understanding who we are within our own relationships, understanding how we express ourselves in those relationships. And, Mercury is about communication and expression. So are you speaking up? Are you being honest? Are you being authentic in your communication with others? Are you being authentic in terms of your choices, the choices that you're making? And the sun is on its way to Mars. So even though it's not quite conjunct, it's pretty close. And Mars is the energy of moving forward. It's how we take action. It's how we take steps ahead. And whether we are doing that from a place of anger, frustration, whether we're doing that from a place of wounding, or we're fighting back or defensive, or whether we're having the courage to take steps in ways that align and that are healthy and that are really real and authentic for us. So that is going to tie in a lot with the things that we were talking about tonight. Hopefully this is resonating and ringing some bells. Because all these things are really a part of what's going on currently for us. Some more. So, when we're looking at this idea of kind of Libra and connection and creation. So again, the scales represent a balance. The first thing I want to talk to you about is maybe this idea of checking out the idea of balance. I know we talk a lot about creating balance in our lives, creating balance in our worlds. I want to have more balance with work and life. I want to have more balance with, I don't know, whatever it is that's going on. What happens when we try to balance life is that we're in this swinging pendulum feel where we go, oh, I'm doing too much of this, so now I got to do this. I've had too much to eat and drink, so now I got to go through a big detox. So we create these, one behavior then necessitates us to choose another one. And oftentimes what we're doing is we are then overcorrecting when we're doing that. So we're doing really, really healthy stuff, and then we're doing really, really unhealthy stuff. And what happens is it creates this swinging feeling of us going back and forth, and we never really find a center with it. So what I would propose you set an intention for right now is to seek harmony. And what harmony means is that you can have all these components of your life. You can have the work, you can have the play, you can have your friends and your family. You can go do the things that light you up, shows, music, coffee with friends. But then you can also, do the work stuff and, the responsible things in life. So the idea is that with harmony is you find a way for them to all work together. And if there's something that is creating discord or disharmony, that is where there needs to be something addressed. That's where you need to go a bit deeper into it and really start to look at your motivations for why you are choosing that. So this may be an opportunity for you over the next few weeks is to really listen to yourself. Our body sings, our energy sings, and to get a sense of where is the harmony, where is the beat working with the melody, and the, where are all these elements working for me? But are there a few areas that are discordant? Are there a few areas that are off? And those can be the areas that you address in order to bring that back into harmony. And it's a much cleaner, clearer, more harmonious way, more aligned way of bringing you into alignment so that you're not swinging and swaying back and forth within your life. So hopefully that resonates and brings in some clarity, because I think that theme can play throughout as well. Another thing I want to mention is, again, with the transits and what's currently happening, is that we have a Libra eclipse on Saturday. So that is, it starts, these are UK times, it starts at 4:03 p.m. It reaches its max at just before 7 p.m. and then it finishes at 9:55 p.m. So what's that, 5 hours? 6 hours of an eclipse window. So I'm going to be holding an event from 7 to 8:30. I would also encourage you either that day or during that window, or the few days before or after, to really spend some time in meditation, with the themes that come up. And I would encourage you to choose one or two areas of your life and really focus on those. Because again, if you just kind of say, I want all my relationships to be better, sure, they can shift. There can be things that happen with that. But if you really drill deep with a couple, that will ripple out and help the other ones too. So again, these may be specific people in your life that you want that relationship to evolve and heal. Again, it may be the things in your life, with your time, with your energy. And both of these eclipses are ruled by Venus, which is all about your quality of life. What makes your life beautiful? What makes your life worth living? What you really want to dedicate your time and your energy to. So Libra is going to help us to get harmony with those things, that Libra eclipse, and figure out where we can make adjustments in those relationships. And then the Taurus eclipse on the 28th is going to help us to ground it. It's going to help us make it real in our real life. So the two actually go together really nicely. So we've got a powerful window of time over the next, about 4 weeks to really go deep with some of these issues. So I would encourage you to do that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So just say a few quick hellos. Yes, we get the replay. Hey, Jennifer in Toronto, Leanne in Scotland, Emma in Glasgow, Lucia in London, Alana in Scotland as well, Julie in Edinburgh, Abby in Savannah, Georgia, Sarka in Bournemouth, Emily in London, Dawn in Scotland, Roz and wet and windy Falkirk. It's wet and windy here in Edinburgh too. And Stuart in Pennacook. Yeah, thank you all so much for being here. You're all very welcome. Yes, so let's talk about relationships. So one of the things I want to start with is the idea that relationships are necessary. Relationships are part of our human experience. And I think what happens with a lot of people, for a number of reasons, want to start to cut out and isolate, and just they can get into this mindset of, oh, well, this thing isn't working, so I cut it out. You see this online all the time. People are like, oh, that's not working for you. Just cut it out of your life. Cut it out of your life. Cut it out of your life. You keep cutting out everything that's not working simply because it's not working perfectly or the way you want it to or think it should go. You're going to be isolated and alone. And the reality is that we are social beings. We're not here to live in isolation. We're not here to live with just our own thoughts and experiences and perspectives. The beauty of having relationships with the world around us is that it invites us to evolve. This invites us to learn and grow. And our relationships with others can teach us so much about ourselves. They help to highlight the best within us. They can also highlight where we're triggered and areas where we need to be healed. So this is where the difficult relationships, the things that you struggle with, the things that you avoid, those indicate where there's some healing to be done. So that's the part to not be avoided. So yes, there may be times where it's time to grow out of a relationship, where it's time to part ways, sometimes temporarily, sometimes you come back together. But I would encourage you, and if you have a habit of just saying, well, I've had a bit of a falling out, or I've had this difficulties coming up, or I'm not feeling 100% respected, you start cutting out all those people, you miss the opportunities to learn and grow. And life really is about learning and growing. All of these experiences are opportunities for awakening. They are opportunities for us to evolve. And the more we isolate ourselves, the less we grow. Now, you as a human may think that that's a good idea, maybe, or maybe desires that on some level. But you as a soul wants more than that. And the reality is that until you address those issues, you will keep inviting people and circumstances into your life that keep challenging you in those ways that feel uncomfortable or problematic until you learn to respond differently. So a lot of this stuff is really addressing your reactions to people, your reactions to the world around you, and changing that to a response. So being able to move out of reaction into response will heal your past. It'll heal your present. It will help you grow, and it will make your life much easier. because not only then will you have less triggering to deal with, less issues to deal with, but everything will start to become healthier because you are choosing healthier responses. You're choosing healthier ways to see the world. Your paradigm can shift, your perspective can shift, and you can open up to seeing people for who and what they really are, as opposed to the projections that we put upon each other. So hopefully that's all clear. If there's any questions about that, feel free to let me know in the chat. Oh, and hello, Tracy and Balak and Lachlan. I hope I pronounced that right. Yeah, so one of the biggest reasons for our relationships is so we can learn about ourselves, so that we can understand our experiences, so that we can understand our own gifts, so that we can understand more about what we are here to offer the world. I know I had one time where I was really meditating on this notion of love and why we fall in love and what that means and why it happens. I sat and meditated with that for a while and got this really clear and comprehensive and beautiful answer, is that the reason we fall in love with another person is because it's a way to help us fall in love with ourselves. Because whatever we can recognize and appreciate in another person is something that is within us. If it wasn't in us, there wouldn't be a resonance. We wouldn't be able to see it or understand it. So these dynamics, whether it's, a romantic relationship or it's a deep friendship, again, even sometimes the complicated ones, the complicated relationships, they help us to understand ourselves and what we value and what we have to share and what we have to offer to the world. So if that's all you take from tonight, hopefully that's worthwhile. And so, yeah, so we get to see aspects of ourselves in other people. We get to see aspects of, sometimes our unhealed selves, sometimes our wounded parts, sometimes the areas where we're still learning and growing. And in the best relationships, we see the glory of who and what we really are. Ideally, you can see that in every relationship, even if it is difficult. But sometimes it takes a little bit of work and healing to get there. So the idea with this is that if you're having difficulties in a relationship, again, it's a highlight. It's a direct arrow to show you what is it within me that is unhealed. Yes, the other person will have some things that they need to heal too, because you're probably triggering each other's pain and suffering. But instead of getting caught up in the drama of the difficulty, if you can bring that back into saying, what is it within me that needs some healing here, and how can I provide that? How can I give that to myself without it being the other person's fault, without there just being a blame or a projection or something that you externalize and that becomes something that you go, oh, not my problem, not my fault. I'll just cut that out. Because I promise you, again, these cycles happen over and over and over again because we haven't quite healed the part that needs healing. We haven't quite understood what needs resolution within us. So these triggers can come from, these can come from our childhood, adolescence, our adult lives growing up. Some of these layers may come from, ancestral things that need to be healed. It can also be from past life experiences. But whatever has happened in the past, whether it's ancestral or past life, if it is resonating or coming up for you now, there is something in your life right now that is reflecting that. So again, a lot of people want to go, oh, that's my ancestor's fault, or I did that in a past life. I'm done with that. If it's still coming up here and now, there is something now that needs to be healed. And, this is one of my biggest tips for healing. People want to spend so much time digging into the past, which is great. Do it, learn from it, understand it. But they spend all the time just in the past, in the past, in the past, in the past. What will happen is that once you start to address these issues and heal them, you will start to respond differently in real time. And when you start to respond differently, that automatically heals the past because you've got the understanding that you needed. So you don't keep having those same emotions and those same feelings coming up over and over and over again, saying this is something you need to pay attention to. So again, if you can really get to a point where, and again, that's this harmony thing, where you can be really present with what's going on in a relationship. You can pay attention to the themes that are coming up. Doesn't matter so much where it started. There will be ties to it and links to it. And I'm sure it's, creating some funny distortions with what's going on now. But when you learn to take that breath and have that bit of spaciousness within you so that you respond in a different way, it will heal those things from the past. And what then happens is when that heals, again, you start to see people for who they really are. You're not seeing them for the lenses and the filters that you've got on. You're not seeing them through the old belief systems and conditionings that you've lived in. You're not seeing them just as the person who hurts you or bullies you or who makes you angry or who makes you feel like a child again. That blame starts to resolve, and you can see them as a whole person for exactly who they are. And then you see you as the whole person for who you are, and all the complexities and all the layers and in all the things that you embody in this moment. So take a nice deep breath in, and if you'd like a healing for that, the energy is there. So one of the great things to look at when you are feeling triggered or upset or frustrated in the present moment, I find one of the good questions to ask is, who does this person remind me of? Or who does this thing or issue remind me of from the past? And am I really seeing it for what it is now? Or is there some resonance from the past that's cycling through and that's getting in the way? So oftentimes, you can have a friend who reminds you of a teacher that maybe didn't treat you very well or respect you as much as they could have. So you start to combine these identities, and you start to see this friend as that teacher, and you start to treat that friend like that teacher. It can be the same thing for parents, whatever those dynamics are. So what happens is when you start to separate that out, then you no longer see that friend as a teacher. You see them for who they are, that individual that they are. So the more that you're able to kind of recognize, so again, that question of who does this remind me of, or what does this remind me of, sometimes helps to create enough spaciousness that you can get that clarity and you can resolve that within you. Jennifer, what if you don't want that type of person from the past in your life? So you can have a look at qualities that people embody or behaviors that people embody. Sometimes there are two different things. So we're going to talk a second about boundaries. You can set boundaries with people in your life so that behaviors are not playing out over and over again. And if you want to get really clear on the types of people you want to have in your life in terms of their qualities, their values, and things like that, do that. Because the clearer you get on that and where it resonates with your qualities and values, the more you will start to attract people that have that higher resonance. If you're still resonating with people with the difficult dynamics, the pain and the suffering, again, that's where you can heal. You can do your own healing with that. And then what happens with those people, and this is what I find so fascinating, is when you heal your stuff. So if you're on this level and you're triggering each other's anger and childhood wounds and suffering and difficulties, if you heal your stuff, you kind of raise your vibration and your expectations and your maybe not expectations, that's not the right word, your boundaries, what you deem as healthy and what you want to invite in. If they can't meet you there, then that relationship may fizzle out, or it invites them to move up to meet you here. So your relationships can evolve when you heal yourself, because you're no longer attracting that same resonance that's unhealthy. So I would absolutely say it is worth spending time figuring out what is it in others that I value in terms of their qualities, their virtues, the way they live, what inspires me about them, what about that brings out the best in me, what do I love to express when I'm with them, get really clear on that. But again, if there's still people coming in that are triggering things, then again, it just shows that there's something there to heal. That's all that is. Yeah. So again, this is where the boundaries come in. So let's talk about boundaries. So your boundaries, I mean, again, something we could spend days and days talking about. Your boundaries are your choices in life. These are the yeses and the nos that you are making every day. The reality is that on some level, a lot of us are unconsciously choosing, or we're choosing the things that we are used to. And if we are used to being in relationships that aren't as nurturing or fulfilling as we want to have, then we're saying yes to that. We're allowing that to continue on some level. And again, when you start to get clear on those no's and start to get clear on the yeses, then your boundaries improve. So if you get really clear on the fact that you want people in your life who are respectful, who have integrity, who understand compassion, who understand authenticity and integrity, then that, again, that is more of what you invited, and that's more of what they will show you, because that's what you are sending out. That's what you're projecting out, is that these are what the boundaries are. Again, if your boundaries aren't as clear, people may come in and push your boundaries a bit, or they may not. And again, what I want to say is a lot of people don't know that they're not behaving with integrity. They may not have the awareness or the consciousness to know that they might be behaving in a bit of a manipulative way or passive aggressive way, or because they're just trying to get their needs met and they're trying to get what they're used to as well. So when you resolve that stuff within you and you get really clear on that, then you attract different conversations, you attract different behaviors, you attract different dynamics. So it starts with you. So if you can heal that stuff within you, then what you project out to the world becomes it's a very different quality. And then people will start to that, respond to that. So again, if people are seeking resonance on some level, and if you guys are resonating in trauma, you'll keep resonating in trauma. You heal the trauma, then you can start to resonate on some higher levels. And I've seen this happen over and over and over again. It's not about cutting out everybody in our life that triggers us. It's dealing with the triggers so that we're no longer triggering each other. When people talk about world peace, that's what this is. When we heal our triggers, we don't react in the same ways. We respond with more compassion and more love and more care. And because we've healed our triggers, we stop triggering the shit out of other people too. So they can show up more in their integrity and more in their alignment. So yeah, so start with yourself and really look at the things that you've avoided, the things that have been difficult for you. Yeah, the things that, the stuff that, I would say the things you avoid the most because you hate feeling them the most, start with that. We often choose to work on the simpler, more surface things because it feels easier, but it doesn't actually resolve the issue. So start to look at your dynamics, start to look at, okay, how do I automatically respond with defensiveness? How do I automatically respond with, oh yeah, but you, or a blaming, or again, whatever those judgments are, whatever that dynamic is. And when you start to respond differently, people can show up differently. It is a co-creation. Every relationship is a co-creation. It's not just one or the other. There's always a co-creation within that. So when you're looking at things around kind of cycles of repetition, these you either keep attracting the same types of people or the same behaviors or the same reactions over and over and over again. This is where you can start to invite in that opportunity for awakening and take that space to breathe before you react. These really are some of your greatest opportunities for healing. And if you can recognize that the people in your life that are triggering you, maybe some of your best teachers, and maybe have a massive part for part to play or role in your awakening, then it doesn't mean you have to continue with that. It doesn't mean you have to continue to seek awakening through pain and suffering, but it means that you can have a different view of it, and you can move into it with new ideas and perceptions and intentions about what you really want to experience. If you believe that awakening or learning has to come through difficulties, through people pushing at you, through people being unkind to you, through feeling invisible, through feeling, again, whatever that is for you, then this is where you can start to say, how could it be different? What would feel more aligned? What would feel healthier? What would actually support my awakening in a way that feels more loving and kind and gracious? Yeah. If anybody wants a healing for that, just have that now. So when we're looking at this idea of kind of karmic connections versus soul connections, this is something I've been talking about with people lately. And when I really understood this, it really changed my view and my understanding of the relationships I had, what I was calling into my relationships, and again, where I was making things difficult, not only for myself, but for another person too. So let's look at karmic connections first. So karma, first of all, is neither bad nor good. We get this idea about karma being a punishment or something that is meant to right the wrongs or create justice. We try to leave it up to karma to do that for us. Karma is simply cause and effect. That's all it is. We assign all these other ideas to it. So with this idea of karma and cause and effect, it's really looking at, well, what have I been part of creating? What have I been part of facilitating in that dynamic? And is it something I need to continue with and carry on? So a lot of times with karmic relationships, or where you are resolving karma with people, again, these are these relationships where it's being highlighted where you need to have some healing, where you need to have a higher understanding or perspective of what is actually going on. And again, until you make a change, till you set a new boundary, until you make a new choice, you have a new realization, you have a higher understanding, that stuff will continue to play out, because it is showing you where you can evolve. It's showing you where you can be a better friend. It's showing you where you can be a better partner. It's showing you where you can have a healthier dynamic with money and income, or consumption and spending. It's showing you where you can honor your body better. It's showing you where you can really make your home feel like a home. So kind of looking at ways you want to dedicate your time and your energy and focus to nurturing relationships, so that there's not this back and forth. This negative thing happens to me, so I do a negative thing, which creates another negative, which creates another negative. That's where we get caught in when people talk about these karmic relationships that are so hard and so difficult. It's this back and forth of the heavy or unhealthy energy. It's the perpetuation of the drama, of the anger, of the hurt, of the suffering. This is the stuff we do to ourselves and we do to each other. And I will guarantee you that anything that is playing out in a relationship with another person or thing in your life is happening internally to you. So whatever is, wherever you are feeling punished or bullied by others, you are punishing and bullying yourself too. Wherever you are feeling unseen or unheard, you are not listening to yourself as well. So again, these dynamics with the other really are an invitation to come back within and recognize that there, and to embrace and embody that opportunity to evolve. So with these karmic relationships or these cycles that are happening, again, some of these things may have past life origins. They could even be collective consciousness or within the ancestral line. But anywhere that is happening, that is where there's a misunderstanding, where a healing needs to take place, where there are judgments involved that are untrue. There's a difference between judgment and discernment. So you can have discernment about a person, about where they're at energetically, about where they are at in terms of their own evolution, progress, whatever terminology you want to use, their maturity. Yeah. So, but if you are making judgments about that person, that is what creates the unhealthy karma between the two of you. If you are judging them for being bad, for being wrong, if you are judging them for their behaviors, and actually if you are making their behaviors who they are, we do this all the time in society. Somebody, in childhood, it happens in adulthood too, where a person can have really unhealthy dynamics where they feel very disempowered, so they try to assert power over others. So that can come across as behavior that may be bullying or disrespectful or unkind. So we label that person a bully. We label that person a bad person. They're wrong, they're evil, they're hateful. So some of this is about being able to kind of have discernment with the behaviors that are there, and then also gain clarity on what's motivating those behaviors. Because again, they will be responding to their own perceptions and projections and conditioning, and they'll be responding to yours as well. So if we can start to kind of separate the behaviors from labeling that person and stop doing that to ourselves as well, that starts to kind of break down some of those cycles. That starts to disrupt that. And actually, learning to disrupt yourself is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Learning to disrupt the trains of thought, learning to disrupt the automatic reactions, learning to disrupt that knee jerk. I'm angry. I'm infuriated. I hate them. I'm so hurt. Being able to create enough space in that will start to disrupt those cycles. But again, if you can really recognize that these cycles are only there because there is an awakening to happen, there's something to recognize, there's something to understand within that dynamic. And if you understand how you are co-creating it, then that will start to disrupt that. And when it comes to what I would term as more soul connections or soulful connections, and we'll talk a little bit about the difference between the two and the overlap with these. When I'm talking about soul connections, that's more of that resonance. That's more of that where you are stepping into living your values and virtues. They are stepping into living their values and virtues. And what you do when you are together is you bring out the best elements of each other, because you are resonating in the healed aspects of you. You're resonating in the greatest of your qualities, the greatness that you have to offer, and they get to do the same. So every relationship is going to be different, because every person that you're interacting with is going to be different. And I have a friend who's a poet, and I love to talk to her about poetry and creativity and writing and art, because we resonate within that. I don't have those same conversations with every soul connection in my life, because we have different interests or different resonances and different connections. So I think some of this is also about stripping away these expectations of how a relationship is supposed to be, how a person needs to fit in a box, and how they have to provide a need for you. And that is actually what ruins loads of issues and loads of relationships, is that when we expect another person to fulfill a need for us, we create loads of obligations, which creates that unhealthy karma. We need them to be our mother. We need them to be our best friend. We need them to be, to support and agree with everything we say. We obligate people to show up in these ways. And what happens is we are not authentic within ourselves in that, and they can't be authentic either. They can't show up and shine for the people who they really are. So this, for me, this resonance of a soul connection or that deeper connection is where you are really connecting soul to soul. You're connecting heart to heart. Your higher selves are communing. And these are the relationships where we feel most at home in ourselves, where we feel most centered and present, where we can really allow ourselves to unfold and open up. And it's not to say that there aren't some challenges, again, that they may not agree with you on everything. And that's great. So this soul to soul, but this soul to soul connection allows freedom. It allows some freedom of expression. It allows freedom of growth. And with soul connections, what can happen is that, because we're all on our own individual journeys, we're all growing and developing and evolving in different ways at different times. But with those soul connections, you can both have your own evolutions and still connect, because you can witness and celebrate for each other the growth that's happening, the alignment that is happening, and what it is to show up as you truly are. So in terms of seeking soul connections, well, maybe you could argue that you don't need to seek them. So let's talk about this the other day. Brene Brown has a beautiful way of describing this. She talks about the difference between belonging and fitting in. And fitting in may mean that you're conforming, that you're bending over backwards, you're dampening parts of yourself. You're saying things you don't really believe because you are seeking a connection, but it's not a real connection because you're not being really honest. You're not really being true in who you are. Whereas belonging means you show up as you are, not your wounding, not the patterns, not the old thoughts, but you show up in that whole heart and soul alignment. And then you find where you belong, because when you do this, you project out to people, this is who I am. This is what I really am. And other people can find that resonance. And so you start to connect with people who have that resonance that's there. So it's a very different energy than trying to fit in. It's a wholly different experience than trying to fit in or trying to make it work. So, it may be that you want to spend time meditating on, what does that soul connection look like and feel like for me? Like, what are my greatest qualities? When I get to express these qualities, when I get to live these qualities, how do I feel? What goes really well in my life? How do I how do I feel more free? How do I feel liberated? How do I feel more honest and more true? Because this is really what we're going for. When we talk about being high vibration, that's what that is. It's you living your virtues and your gifts. It's you recognizing that belonging within yourself and allowing other people to witness that too. The greatest gift we can give to others and to ourselves is to allow them to bear witness to who we truly are. And in so many ways, we're not doing that. For loads of reasons, we're not doing that. So if you're wanting more of this resonance and this soul connection, the work then is identifying who and what you really are, the ways you want to show up, and actually doing that. Now, what will happen as well is that there may be some overlap with some of those soul connections and those karmic connections. And it may be that you recognize that there is a deep resonance with somebody and you still have some stuff to work through. There may be some difficulties in communication. There may be some old hurts that need to heal. You may recognize that, oh, when I'm with this person, I step into the role of the child and they step into the role of the adult. Or, I don't know, they're triggering some old anger from my past, or I feel insecure in these ways when I'm around them. Again, and another beautiful gift that you can give is that if you have a soul connection in your life and you recognize where the karma is playing out, that you guys address it. And that, again, that can go back to, I start with me. I start to recognize where this is playing out and where this karmic stuff, these cycles, are getting in the way of us truly seeing each other eye to eye. And in terms of being able to work through that, there's got to be a willingness to work through it. There's got to be a willingness to understand the dynamics that are getting in the way. And there's got to be a willingness to address that on some level. And I've seen this over and over again where people have really deep soul connections with people and they cut them out, they avoid, or things blow up or dissolve because they didn't work through the past stuff, the old things that needed to be worked through to get to that. So it's not just necessarily a thing where you just say, I want soul connections and that's it. There's got to be a willingness to work through the karma too. There's got to be a willingness to work through the old wounds. And the more that you can address that, again, the more that you show up and resonate, and the more that you attract that into your life. So there are more and more and more of those things. Yeah. Yes. People need to take responsibility for themselves, 100%. But if you start with you, you'd be amazed at what can heal. You'd be amazed at it. So if you allow yourself, and actually that might be one of the things that the intentions or the things that you want, is that you want people that are willing to be responsible for themselves, and that you want people who are willing to work through their differences, and that you want people in your life who are prepared to put in the work and the effort, because relationships are going to take some effort to maintain them and keep them healthy and keep them fresh and fun and interesting. So it's really about, instead of getting caught up in the drama of it, it's saying, well, what's good in this? What is worth working through? What's worth working towards? And what am I willing to do with that? Yeah. Yeah, Tracy. Yeah. there can definitely be a bit of both karma and soul. Yeah. So again, it just means that there's some things to work through, because we all grow up with family dynamics that are unhealthy. We all grow up in school situations where there's some hurt. The world is, unfortunately, at this point, not a perfect place. But that doesn't mean that it has to stop us from having the types of connections that we want to have. Yeah. So again, with those soul connections, and I would say even with the karmic stuff, where there are things to work through, even if they're really big things to work through. And again, I would bet you have a lot of karma to work through with your family members and things like that. The more you show up as your virtuous self, the more you show up embodying the gifts of love, compassion, understanding, honesty, joy, playfulness, sense of humor, compassion, care, all those things. Sometimes, again, just doing that can start to disrupt the dynamics that were there before. If you're in a relationship with somebody who the response is that you get angry with each other, you blame each other, you're pissed off, there's a fight, there's a drama, and that's it. If that's what you're used to and you both keep perpetuating that's what'll continue to happen. If you can show up in a different way, that disrupts that behavior, it disrupts that cycle. So one of the things I decided a number of years ago, which I do still have to remind myself sometimes, I'm a human, but I had a few things going on with a few relationships in my life where things were getting a bit sticky. There were some difficult conversations to have. There were some misunderstandings. There were assumptions being made, and there was definitely some defensiveness coming up around all that. Again, just old stuff playing out. I made the decision that I didn't have to be right. So that's the judgment of I'm right and you're wrong. I made the decision I didn't have to be right. And what I did was I went through a process of saying, what would it be like if I de-armored? And what would it be like if I could show up in a conversation? Not that I have to agree with everything they say or conform to their way of thinking, but what if I showed up with no armor and I listened? I just listened. So for some people, they're not used to being heard or listened to. So they feel like they have to keep going. They have to keep making the same point over and over and over again because they think they're not being listened to. Probably because you're not listening to them on some level. Because as soon as your defensives go up, you can't hear each other. That is every time. As soon as the defenses go up, you can't see and hear each other. Your filters are there. Those lenses are there. You can't do it. So I said, I want to de-armor and I want to listen. And it really, and again, it's not the easy thing to do. It takes courage to do that. And it's not always a simple, straightforward process. But what happens is when you show up without those defenses, you show up without that armor, and you show up without the assumption of right and wrong, then and just listen and hear people, then it disrupts that back and forth where you're not hearing each other, where you're not listening to each other, where you've got your perspectives about what it's going to be. Oh, it's just going to be the same conversation over and over again because it has been. It disrupts all of that. And what it does is it then invites you to be in a higher state of hearing and understanding. It allows you to see more of the dynamics that are at play. And it gets them out of that pattern of reacting, so that they actually can choose a different response because it's not that seesaw back and forth or the ping pong ball or whatever. It's just not the same. That energy goes. So this is where when you say, I'm going to be responsible for myself and I'm going to see what I can do to disrupt this in a really compassionate way, the responses have to change. They do. And again, what will happen with those relationships is they'll either start to meet you in that higher place or things will finish. Or maybe they come back later on in life. That can happen too. Because again, we're all learning, evolving, growing at different times. So sometimes they maybe just need a little bit more time to process through that. I may be wrong by Bjorn Natiko. Apologies for that pronunciation. Linda Blad is an amazing read. Thank you for that. I will look that up. Yeah. So yeah. So I found one of the best questions to ask, and you may have other ones that you ask yourself in these situations that resonate for you. But a good one that I found is when there's something going on, or when I'm pondering a relationship or looking at the dynamics, the question I ask is what's going on here? Is this purely karmic? Are we, oh, sorry, my video is now doing fun things. Is this purely karmic? Are we here just to really teach and learn from each other in difficult ways? And what am I needing to understand or address within this so that we can move out of this karmic cause and effect? Is this soul connection? We're really here to bring out the best in each other. We're really here to learn and grow with each other in really interesting, cool ways. Or is there maybe a bit of overlap going on here? And what happens with so many people is they are adamant that something is a soul connection, but they are resonating with the wounds. And that's not the same. So people will stay in relationships, pushing, forcing, trying to make the other person change, trying to make it work. Yeah, and it's really hard and difficult. And what happens is when you are resonating with the wounding, you just keep perpetuating each other's wounding. You just keep wounding each other and yourself in that process. So if there are people in your life that you are meant to learn something from, maybe it was them in a past life, or maybe it's somebody else that they're trying to help you. Maybe they're trying to help you work through your mother or father issues. Maybe they're trying to help you learn more about, I don't know, being a leader or being a guide. Maybe they're trying to help you learn more about creating communities, whatever those lessons are, whatever those understandings are. You can get a sense of that. And again, maybe that relationship then ends, or it can become something better. So if you are resonating with people through the wounds and through the pain, this is the opportunity for you to reflect and say, what is the wounding here that we are perpetuating? And actually, how can I be of service to the relationship and the greater world by healing that within myself, so I don't keep creating that with other people too? This is the most compassionate and kind thing that you can do, is you work through your own stuff so you don't keep doing that with other people. So you don't keep creating those same dynamics with your friends and your family and your loved ones. And then this idea of, how can I change or heal the karma? What can I change in my responses that's going to help to heal this? So whether that's de-armoring, whether that's listening, whether that's showing up more authentically as you. And the thing with this self-reflection is it helps you understand yourself more. This is an opportunity to awaken your own self-awareness. This is an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself. It's really a calling to get into heart and soul, and recognize what you are expressing that is true or not true. Because so much of what is creating the wounds isn't who we really are. It's just not. Our wounds are not who we are. They are experiences that we've had. There are things that we've been through. It's not who you are. And it's not who that other person is. So we get really upset and frustrated and angry with people who are operating from their wounds, who are then triggering our wounds. So it's that back and forth. So if you recognize that you're just in that state of wounding each other, the invitation is to say, what within these wounds can I heal so that we are no longer hurting each other? And looking at that, you may start with a relationship with a parent or sibling, or, something like that, that's really creating some issues for you. If you start with one relationship and heal that, it will ripple out to your other relationships. It will make a difference in the way you show up and in what you express and what you share. Because remember, the wounding is not truly who you are. It's not authentic. So if you're expressing the wounds and the suffering, you're not showing up to belong. I'm sure there's some fitting in going on there somewhere. So anywhere you can recognize where, I thought that wounding was a part of me or was who I am, and it's not, then getting clarity on, well, who am I really? And how do I really want to show up here? That's more honest, that's more authentic, that's more true. Because we are souls here to have an experience. We're not here to perpetuate each other's wounds and cycles of suffering. We're here to end that stuff. If you're on this call, you're here to end that stuff. Promise you. So you can start to have a look at the relationships you have right now. And again, I would say this can be the people in your life. I want to call it back again to the recognition that this could be your relationship with your body, your relationship with money, resources, home, work. I mean, again, anything and everything is relational. You have a relationship, like I have a relationship with this mug right here. It's something I chose. It's something I have in my space because I love it and it's beautiful. It enhances the quality of my life. Everything is relational. Everything outside of you is relational. So you can really start, again, I'd say start with one or two relationships in this period and say, I'm going to go deep with one or two of these. And I'm really going to gain some clarity on what these issues are highlighting within me. What this unhealthy dynamic with this other thing is showing me about my unhealthy relationship with myself. And the more that you almost becoming looser with your judgments, that space for grace, which I think Jamie Wheal said that. I can't remember where I heard that from. I would love to give credit. This idea that you give some space for grace for yourself and for the people that are around you. And when you provide a bit of that spaciousness instead of those automatic reactions, instead of just diving back into the defensiveness, there's a space to choose a different response. There's a space to see them in a different light. There's a space to understand yourself, something about yourself on a deeper level. And there's a real calling right now with Libra season, with the eclipses, but also, the world could use this. Because again, the more we heal this stuff, the clearer we are, the more we understand about our reactions, the better we are able to allow that to evolve. Yeah. Are there any other questions that are coming up? See if I've missed any in the chat. Oh yeah, Tracy, you can have compassion for the person without liking their behavior, and you don't have to take it personally. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. It's that thing of, you can have friends that you don't agree with every single thing they say and do. If you get really heavy in that judgment about it, it may be that there's a lack of resonance to recognize and understand. But also it could be, again, that space for grace where you allow people to be who they are. You can choose how you want to interact with them or not. Yeah. During Libra season, the goddess Themis is super interesting to look at. Goddess and oracle of justice, balance, male and female, and divine order. Yes, thank you for sharing. That's very cool. Yeah. Oh, Stuart, chatting with the guy who was talking about people vampiring him, is feeling very vampired by him. It's amazing how that happens. It's usually the things we complain about, and others is the stuff we need to address within ourselves. What I needed to do was speak up and create a boundary, though I didn't at the time. So just having that realization means that you can have a different response next time. So yes, having that awareness is perfect. So what you can do is kind of look at, well, again, what could my response be next time that feels healthy, that feels clear, that feels compassionate, again, whatever energy feels like belongs there. But yeah, definitely. It's a great realization to have. Yeah. Here's the thing with people that feel manipulative or like they suck you dry, people use that vampire analogy is a good one. People use that language a lot. They think that other people are very parasitical, or they're being hurt or attacked, or whatever that is. That's a boundary issue. You're absolutely right, Stuart. It's a boundary issue. So again, the clearer you are with your boundaries, the less likely that is to happen, because you're not sending out that message that is okay. Yeah, so it's worth looking. If we're feeling sucked dry by others, we're either doing that to other people too, or we're doing that to ourselves. Again, it might be that self-perpetuation. And really, just recognizing where that stems from, and why we're allowing those things to happen on some level, because we if we think it's serving us or that we're going to gain something from it, even if it doesn't feel good while it's happening, if part of us believes, oh well, I either have to do that to have friends, or I'm not allowed to say no, it's selfish to say no, whatever those reasons are, that shows where there can be a change in perspective and a change in response. Yeah, Stuart, nervous to speaking up in case I hurt his feelings. It's a really common one. I believe that setting healthy boundaries is the most compassionate thing you can do for people. Because what happens is, when you are really clear with your boundaries, people know where they stand. They can pick up on that energetically and intuitively. And again, if your boundaries are really clear and healthy, they get to show up with clearer and healthier boundaries. Because again, they may not know, they might not have the awareness that is what's happening. So again, it's not that you need to just allow it. But yeah, being able to get clear on what it is to have really clear, healthy boundaries with people, what it feels like to say no with some grace and some love, but knowing that it's still strong and it's heard and respected. Working through those things can make a massive difference. And you can definitely set healthy boundaries without being mean or being rude or not having tact with it. I mean, you're also not responsible for how other people feel. But again, I think the more that we are clear on that, and the more that we practice it, then it becomes easier, it becomes clearer, and it's less likely to have any result like that. Linda once had a friend who started her boundary statement with the phrase "all due respect." Yeah, if that works for you, go for it. It could also be a thing about, well, this is how I'm feeling about this, or this is what's coming up for me, or and it can be a conversation. It doesn't just need to be a statement that you say, this is it. Because again, if a friend isn't aware that they're crossing a boundary, then having that conversation can strengthen your friendship, because it brings more honesty in. Yeah. Yeah. So what I think what we'll do is we'll do a little bit of a meditation through this, and with the idea that there can be some healing and some resolution with this, maybe also some clarity on some things that have been unclear before. I mean, you can welcome in, you can call in some answers, some understanding. Again, if you feel like you could do with a little bit more patience or compassion or authenticity, things like that, that's a great thing to focus on. You can bring that in and feel that more within yourself. So we'll just do a short meditation, and then we'll finish up with any last questions. So if you want to take in a couple nice deep breaths and close your eyes. And let's just start within your heart. So just imagine that as you're breathing, that there's love and nurturing and care flowing in and out of your heart. And recognize that that is all abundant. There are no strings attached. It's unconditional love. And as you're breathing in and out that unconditional love, just take a moment to notice where you may have your defenses up, where you may be closing yourself off to some communication or understanding or higher perspective. And just imagine what it would feel like to allow some of those walls to come down, to be less on edge, less suspicious, less frustrated, less angry, less hurt. Remembering that those feelings and that those issues around hurt are not who you are, they're what you've experienced. So any part of you that is overly identifying with them, just allow there to be a bit of space there. Your pain is not who you are. But it's showing you where you may want to evolve or make some changes. And I want you to think about the people in your life, or the dynamics with your own self, your body, the world that surrounds you, that feel purely karmic. Or you may have created some unhealthy boundaries or made some unhealthy choices. Part of you is really trying to learn. You really want to understand. And you really want to evolve. And just take a moment to start to identify the people and the things in your life. They're trying so hard, consciously or unconsciously, to help you awaken. They may be pushing at your boundaries. They may be saying or doing things that feel hurtful or disrespectful or rude. Maybe you feel abandoned or neglected by them. Maybe they trigger some of your most difficult emotions and feelings. Take a moment to ask your heart, your own internal intuition, not the wounds, that higher self, that higher aspect of you. What qualities are you trying to learn or express or understand more deeply in those interactions? Just allow the answers and the healing to come through. You don't have to know every single detail about what you're going to say or do. Start to gain some clarity. And if any part of you is tempted to blame them, or put all the responsibility on them, breathe into that. Allow a little more space and spaciousness. So that you can recognize you're part of that co-creation. Not so that you feel ashamed, that you punish yourself or judge yourself. Just simply seeking awareness. You're seeking discernment. Now go back into your heart. Connect with that energy of your higher self or you as a soul. Allow yourself to recognize some of the soul connections within your life. Again, there may have been some karma to work through. Maybe there still is. Who or what in the world resonates with the best of you? It resonates with your goodness and your greatness. It resonates with your integrity. It resonates with honesty or joy or freedom. What relationships have the potential for that as you work through the karma and the wounding? And if there are any qualities within you that you would like to express more of, allow yourself to identify that now. Maybe there's a deep peace you'd like to share more in your relationships, or a deep sense of honor or respect. Maybe there's a deep sense of graciousness and gratitude that's there within you that you want to share with the world. Maybe there's a lightness of being, joyfulness, playfulness that you want to express with others. Identify where there might be some possibilities for that. The relationships you already have, and in the ones you might want to call in. Allow yourself to recognize that even though it may require some courage to show up authentically as you, that's really the answer to all of this. Because when you show up as you truly are, you belong to yourself. And then you recognize where you belong in the world, who you belong with. Just breathe in that sense of belonging, that sense of honesty, and the love and the acceptance that is there. Just feel that sense of authenticity and love through your whole body, moving into your connections with other people in the world around you. If there's any last bits of clarity or understanding that you're seeking, allow yourself to receive that now. And take another few deep breaths in and out of your heart. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you all for that.